Have you ever wondered why you're really motivated to do something and you're going really well, but then you just fall back into old habits? And it's not about standards this week. This week I'm talking about your identity and how your identity, well, if it's outdated, it is going to cost you. So let's jump on into the episode. Hello and welcome to the Bounce Back Better podcast. I realised last week I forgot to say text a friend. So I'm going to start at the beginning. You could even hit pause and do it right now, or at the very end of this podcast, text somebody and tell them how amazing you think they are. Just imagine when somebody does that to you, or have a think about when somebody does that to you, how you feel. And I would like you to pay it forward to somebody else, because when you put a smile on somebody else's face, it changes their day, it changes their outcome, it changes the way they behave, changes so much. So I challenge you this week to please text a friend, tell them they're amazing, and hit subscribe to this. I really appreciate a comment on YouTube. Go on, do it. First person to give a comment on YouTube this week wins a copy of 3 Wines In. There you go. My book, 3 Wines In, free copy coming your way, whoever does the first comment. And a little bit of a secret, I'm just about finished a second book. It's pretty cool. I'm working through it anyway. I say, yeah, it takes a bit of time. I've been working on it for a while. But anyway, I'm getting closer and I'm excited about it. I can't wait to share it with you. But first comment on this episode, which is about your identity and how it's outdated, wins a copy of 3 Wines In. Great book for learning how to goal set, to learn how to sort of grow more confidence without, feeling like you're not good enough all the time. There's a lot of self-awareness in that book, which is just fabulous. Anyways, let's talk about your identity. We're going to get straight to it because this one's going to sting just a wee bit maybe. And if it is, when something stings or it feels a bit prickly, that means it's really speaking to you. So if you find it a little bit irritating, you don't really want to listen, that probably means you do need to listen. And this is what it's going to unlock for you, and what most people don't realize. You don't have a motivation problem. You don't have a time problem. You don't even have a discipline problem. You have an identity problem. You're operating with an outdated version of yourself, and it's costing you way more than you think. It's costing you opportunities, it's costing you growth, it's costing you income, and it's costing you the life you want. If you think about it, it's like when there's a phone upgrade and you don't take it, you're running like on an old system. You might learn new things, and we're going to cover all this in the podcast. You'll upgrade yourself, but you'll still be thinking as the old person. And we need to change the way you think about yourself, the identity, your identity. We need to change that. So most people are trying to change their outcomes, aren't they? Without changing the person producing them. And you're the person producing them. So to get different outcomes consistently, you need to change the person. Otherwise, it never works, because your identity is the operating system, like I said. And the results, they're just the output. You can't keep running on version 1.0 of yourself and expect the results of version 5.0. That's not how it works. So the old version is your problem. I see this in people all the time that I've coached. They want to do something. They feel motivated. And hell, I've been like this. I remember when I was working with Kate McKay, she really stretched me. She's a coach in the US. She was great for me to work with. Loved it. But I just wasn't quite believing or making those changes to be the person. And it's so cool when you work with somebody who really pushes you to feel uncomfortable, because you're going to feel uncomfortable. I mean, a great coach is going to remind you how great you are and all that sort of thing. And there's more than that. They're going to help you come to your own answers, and they're going to hold you accountable. But they also are going to make you realize how amazing you are, what you're capable of. And so when I see people that have grown and they've learned and they've developed new skills, but they're still making decisions from the person they used to be, it's quite disheartening. And I remember working with a client, she'd done the work. Her name was Sarah. She invested in herself. She knew what to do. And every time an opportunity came up, a bigger deal, a bigger move, a bigger step, she hesitated. Do you feel like that sometimes? Do you feel like you're ready, you want to take those steps, and then you hesitate? Is that you as well? And when we unpacked it, here's what came out. I just don't know if I'm that sort of person. That's what she said to me. And yet that was the person she wanted to be. And there it is, that one sentence. There are other ones too. But it's usually not, I don't know how. It's usually not, I don't need more information. I don't know if I'm that kind of person. Whoa. So she was still identifying as the version of herself from 5 years ago. And you think about who you were 5 years ago, less experienced, less confident, less capable. And even though for Sarah, that wasn't true anymore, and that's you as well. If you're listening and you're nodding your head thinking, that's a bit of me. So what did she do? She would shrink back to their identity because that was where she was comfortable. And it's really difficult when we get trapped in that old identity. And this is how it shows up in real life. So this isn't just a Sarah problem. This is everywhere. And I'll give you some ways this does show up. You say you want to be fit, but you identify as someone who struggles with consistency. Or you say you want to earn more, but you say yourself as bad with money and not business-minded. You say you want better relationships, but you still identify as someone who gets treated badly or the person who always has to give in. You say you want to grow your business, but you're stuck thinking like an employee waiting for permission. You say you want confidence, but you're still holding the identity of that shy person, the awkward one, the one who doesn't speak up. You don't act in alignment with your goals. You act in alignment with an old identity. And that's why success feels uncomfortable. And that can very often happen when we start making that big change. I think back with all the monumental things I've done in my life when I've made a really big change and needed to change, because we do. I'm not that teenager that got pregnant and hated myself anymore. I'm not that 100-kilo unemployed person anymore. I am a different person. And all of that meant growing and learning and pushing myself, but then identifying as that person as well. Because had I still stayed thinking about myself as the person that I was, as somebody who preferred to eat pixie caramels, because crikey, I love those things. Chocolate caramel balls. I don't know if you can buy them in Australia or if you can still buy them in New Zealand, but man, they were good. But if I was that person who was still eating those, if I was the person who was still smoking cigarettes and not exercising, if I was that person who was drinking excessively and doing all sorts of things that weren't good for my health, if I was that person trying to change to be the person that I am now, it would never have happened. So you have to make those identity changes. You have to become the person. You have to identify with that person. You have to be that person. I had to be that. That's why I studied nutrition. I had to be that person and understand it and become the person who understood nutrition, to become the person who decided they were going to be healthy. They were going to change their life. And that's the part that people don't really understand. When your life starts to expand, it can feel really uncomfortable. Not because something's wrong, but because it doesn't match your current identity. Are you relating with me now? You kind of get what I'm saying? Because your brain is wired for familiarity. It's a tough word to say, familiarity, there you go. But it's wired for familiarity, not growth. So when we start doing well, more money, more visibility, more responsibility, your system goes, hang on, hold up. This isn't who we are. And what do? You pull back. You procrastinate, you overthink, you delay decisions, you sabotage momentum, not consciously, but because your identity hasn't caught up yet. Think in your life where this is showing up. Think where you want more and you start doing the right things, but you're still identifying, you're still behaving as that person. Not all the time, but it starts creeping back in. And before you know it, it's gone. You stop achieving what you want. You give up, you procrastinate, you have fabulous reasons, and you don't become the person you want to be. You get stuck. Gosh, and remember, stuck is just a grave with the ends kicked out. Stuck is where dreams go to die. Stuck is just scared in slow motion. Stuck is all of those places. So what's actually happening in your body when this is going on? And I'm going to break it down properly. When you're stepping into something new, something bigger, your brain can see it as a threat. Your brain's like, I'm not happy with this. Even if it's a good thing, your stress response activates. Cortisol goes up, heart rate goes up, and your thinking narrows. Like that prefrontal cortex just can't work as it wants to, that decision-making part of the brain. That's just your brain trying to protect you. And I know you've heard this before, but that is actually what's happening. And it thinks, danger, but it's just unfamiliar. So instead of stepping forward by default, you go back to the person of you where you feel safe. And that's the very person who is keeping you stuck. So the foundation flaw here, and this is what I call a foundation flaw, is you've built a life of habits and decisions and identity that's no longer accurate. That's the old you. And instead of updating it, you keep reinforcing it. And it's like if you're building a bigger building and keep renovating and building on top, but your foundations are flawed, something's got to give eventually. And that something is your growth. It's like, the simplest way to understand this is if you think of it like a GPS. So let's say you've moved and you put in your address to your new house from somewhere where you are, but it keeps taking you back to the old address. It just can't help it. And it's not because the system's broken. It's just because the starting point or the end point is now outdated. And that's what happens with our identity. We really need to be aware of who we need to become and check in with ourselves. And so much about moving forward in life and being happy and being more successful and just being that person we want to be with happiness comes from being aware. Self-awareness, number one, understanding what you're doing, how you're behaving, the results you're getting. Are you happy with them? What do you value? What's working for you? What's not working for you? I remember years ago I was coaching a guy called Brad, actually. He's actually in my book this time. I think I call him Brett, but his name was actually Brad. Brad was having girlfriend problem after girlfriend problem. He'd have a girlfriend and the relationship would fall apart. And then he'd get another one and it'd fall apart, get another one and it'd fall apart. And he said to me, Hilary, I just don't know what's going on. And I was unpacking it with him. Because when you work with a coach who knows what you're doing, which is me, when you work with somebody like me, I will get you to come to your answer. Because otherwise I'm giving you advice. It's not like I'm teaching you something you need to know. When somebody's coaching you in that sort of situation, in like a life coaching situation, I need a Brad to come to his own realization, because when that happens, it's like the aha moment. And when you have an aha moment, you are way more likely to do something about it than you are if I was to say to Brad, you're picking the same woman over and over. She's just version 1, version 2, version 3, version 4, version 5. He was going for a type. She was always a bit ditzy. She looked great. She usually had dark hair. Honestly, you could just about pick them in a lineup. There were lots of similarities, but it never lasted because they weren't really his type. And when he started telling me about it, because he really wanted a change in a relationship and wanted a solid relationship. And that was the identity he was after, but he kept falling back to his old identity. And when he did that, he just picked the same one. Anyway, he was having this good old unpack / whinge about it. And I said to him, so Brad, how's that working out for you? And that was all he needed to hear. It wasn't. And he realized at that point that if he didn't do something about it, he was going to stay stuck. So he was letting an old identity pick the girlfriends of the new person he was becoming, and it just wasn't working. So think about that for you. If something's not working and you're doing the bits, but you keep slipping back into old behaviors and not really up leveling, how's it working out for you? How is it working out for you? That's a fab question. And it's the truth that most people avoid. And this is the part we don't like hearing. So we don't need more information. We don't need another course. You don't need to try figure it out. You need to decide who you are. Because until you do that, you'll keep making decisions from the person you used to be. Before I wrote a book, and I could say now I'm a writer, I didn't write every day or on a regular basis. So how could I be a writer? Before I podcasted on a regular basis, crikey, the other podcast is up to episode 248 at the moment. And this is around 105. I took a break for 3 months. But I can actually say I'm a podcaster. I can identify with one because I do the things that podcasters do, especially with the other podcast. It is consistent. We've missed 2, and that's over 4 years of podcasting, coming up 5, I suppose it would be. That is an awful lot of podcasts, but that's what a podcaster does. If I identify with as being a podcaster, I am consistently putting out podcasts. And the same with this one, consistently putting out the same content over and over every week. I'm going to say, except last week, make sure you text a friend, subscribe. I'd love for you to give a comment. How often do I say that? How often are you doing it, by the way? But I'm doing the same things over and over, and they are me identifying as a podcaster. So I can hand on heart say that I do that. So where are you wanting, what area of your life do you need to change your identity to level up? So you might be doing something new, but you haven't fully identified as that person. You've still got that, I'm not committed enough to go to the gym, but you want to identify as a healthy, fit person. And that's just an easy fallback one because it's so obvious. But you want to be a business owner or a successful business owner, but you're not doing the work. You're not doing the socials. You're not getting out of bed early enough. All the things that you need to do, you do it once or twice and then you stop. So let's get practical. How do we fix this? Because awareness is absolutely fabulous, but without action, it's blooming useless. So we need to call out the old identity. You need to be brutally honest with yourself. What identity am I holding on to that's no longer true? What is it? That's you. What identity are you holding on to that's no longer true? Write it down. Really think about it. You don't need a brand new pen, whiteboard or anything, who cares? It can be on the back of a supermarket receipt, but just write it down. Not the polished version, the real one. I'm bad with money. I'm not confident. I'm not consistent. I'm not a leader. I see this a lot at Toastmasters. Some of the newer girls, they'll be like, I can't do my icebreaker. What will people think? Holy heck, who cares what people think? If you want to do something, you have to identify as that. Get it out of your head, put it on paper, because you can't change what you won't confront. And I'm talking about confronting yourself. Now, separate the fact from the story. Look at it properly. Is that actually true? Or is it just a story I'm repeating over and over? And I've said it so many times that it feels real. Does that feel real to you? Or is it outdated evidence based on who you were, not who you are now? And now I want you to define the upgraded version. This is the shift. This is the shift. You don't hope to become someone new. You decide. Who do you need to be to get the results that you want? Be specific, not fluffy, not vague. I am someone who makes decisions quickly. I am someone who follows through. I'm someone who backs myself. I'm someone who handles big opportunities. That's the new identity. There's so many of you who I know, listen, I'm thinking about you right now. Oh my goodness. I want to repeat those. Not vague. I'm going to say them again. And you know I'm talking to you. You know who you are. You know who you are. I am someone who makes decisions quickly. I am someone who follows through. I am someone who backs myself. I am someone who handles bigger opportunities. I'm not somebody who blames other people. I'm not somebody who is going to get round to it. I'm not somebody who thinks that I've sent the email and now it's over to them to respond. I am the person that makes sure it gets done. Then you need to act before you feel ready. My gosh, this is the key to life. You act always before you feel ready. You will never feel ready, trust me. And this is where most people fall over. They wait to feel confident. That never comes. Confidence never comes. Confidence is a byproduct of action. It's not a prerequisite. And they've got to act before it feels natural. We, you, me, we have to act before things feel natural and comfortable, before it feels like you. A friend of mine a while ago used to always say, I don't really feel like that. And she never did stuff. And the results showed up in her life, because none of us feel like doing the hard stuff. If I didn't do the things I didn't feel like doing, I too would be still that 100-kilo unemployed person doing absolutely nothing. It's easier to do nothing, but nobody wants that. Do you? Do you want that? Do you want no results in life? It's going to feel uncomfortable. So remember, confidence is a byproduct. It's a byproduct of action. It's not the prerequisite. And that's a golden line here. So you act like the new you before it feels comfortable, before it feels natural, before it feels like the new you. And then you just have to take action, because the gap between your identity and action, do you know what that is? That's the hesitation. And the hesitation is where you slip back into the old version of you. And this is where my new book comes in. Shall we open it now? It's called 3, 2, 1, done. You're anxious about something. You won't do it. You just take 3 breaths. It calms the nervous system, clears your brain. In through the nose, hold for 4 seconds, slower, longer breath out. 20 seconds of breathing will absolutely calm your brain long enough for you to make a decision. Take 3 breaths, then isolate it down to 2 choices. I'm going to do that, or I'm going to do that. And none of them is not an action. They're both an action. Often we're overwhelmed with too many things to do, and there's too many options. Take it down to 2. You can do this at a restaurant next time you go out. Say, oh, well, I have that. Will I have that? 3 breaths. Take it down to two options. Choose one, act. 3, 2, 1, done. It's got so much science behind it. It's so simple, and it'll stop you being stuck. And the more you do that, the more you become the action taker, the more confidence you will grow. And if you do that consistently, your identity will change. 3, 2, 1, done. Don't debate it. Don't overthink it. You move. And that is how your identity shifts. Not through thinking about it, through doing. We have to do. We have to do. You do. You don't think about it. So think about this. When you've seen people make fast decisions, and you would have seen it, they don't sit there analysing everything to death. They decide, they move, they adjust, they move again. Why? Because that's their identity. Their identity is, I'm a decisive person. I make things happen. That's it. Same brain, same opportunities, different identity, different outcomes. So what do you think of 3, 2, 1, done? I want you to try it. Just start being decisive. Make a decision. Remember, not choosing is an action, and it won't give you the outcome you're after. And what people get wrong is they think that an identity is something you discover, and it's not. It was interesting, a while ago, I was at the airport and I met this lady because, I'm a chatter to strangers. I love hearing people's life stories. I find them interesting. And she said that her husband had passed away and she's reasonably young. She's probably around 45. And she said, I'm going to India to find myself. And that's what she was doing. And I said to her, you already know who you are. I think what we often believe we need to do is go back and look back from afar and find out who we used to be. We forget that we can be whoever we want, and that can start today. We can draw that line in the sand, press the reset button, step over it, and create the life you want. Don't go back and find an old identity. Decide on a new one. Why would you want to reflect back on who, unless it was like so amazing? But why not just create the new identity of who you want to be? And, you're listening to me now and maybe there's an area of your life that you need to change, or maybe the whole of the thing just needs an overhaul. But who do you want to be? You don't need to find yourself. You need to create yourself. I'm going to say that again. You do not need to find yourself. You need to create yourself. So don't go looking for the old you, discovering the old you. You need to decide, who am I? And identify as that person and become that person. Then prove yourself through action over and over and over. The more you act, the more you'll be there. So you don't need to become something different or someone different. You need to stop clinging to an old version of you that's no longer fit for you. The version that got you to here, it won't get you to there. So that person that got you to where you are now can only hold you here. For you to move forward, you have to become another person. So here's your challenge for the week. Identity is one area of your life. So I want you to think of where you're still operating on an outdated identity. Is it to do with health? Is it to do with a relationship? Is it to do with wealth? Is it to do with happiness? Is it to do with playtime? What is it? And then ask yourself, what would the upgraded version of me do right here? And then you know what you do? Go do that. That's it. Immediately. Don't delay. No overthinking. No negotiating. Because the longer you wait, the more reinforced you are staying to the old version. And the more that will cost you. It costs a lot to stay stuck to an old identity. So this isn't about becoming someone else. This is about finally becoming the person you want to grow into, or you've already grown into. And you're just late updating the system. Fix it. You can fix it. And when you do, everything changes. So people, lovely people, I hope you get some gold out of that. I'm looking forward to bringing 3, 2, 1 Done into the world. It's such a cool book. And I'm looking forward to hearing how the updated version of you works, because I know hand on heart that when you choose to upgrade yourself, when you choose to identify as the person you want to be, or as the person that you are being, and you stop dropping back into those old habits, your life will change in a phenomenal way. All right, I'm going to do the reminder. Please text a friend. Number 2, I'd love to hear from you. I would love to hear, what are you thinking of the podcast? I would love for you to write a comment on the YouTube. That would be fabulous. But let me know. And if there's a topic you'd like for me to cover, reach out. Anyway, have a fabulous week. I hope you had an amazing Easter. I've got this week off. My little grandson's coming to play for a whole week. I cannot wait. I pick him up at the airport tomorrow morning with his dad, and I am going to be Gotti, because that's what he calls me, Gotti. I'm going to be Gotti for 7 days, and it's going to be the best 7 days. So that's my identity. I get to be Gotti for the next 7 days, and I'm so excited for that. And I've so planned and organised, as in the fun things we're going to do. I bought him a scooter. He calls it a shooter. I bought him a shooter as his birthday present, because he just turned 5. And I'm excited to be hanging out with him. And I'm going to identify as the best Gotti in the world. And guess what he calls me as a nickname? Sometimes he calls me Gotti. And my nickname? God. He calls me God. How hilarious is that? Anyways, that's enough of my story. I hope you have a fabulous week, and I'll look forward to catching up with you next week. So bye for now, and identify as the person you want to be. See you later.